ready to dive into some atomic habits. We're going to be looking at James Clear's book today.
Yeah.
And like unearthing all the best bits about building habits.
Yeah, it's you know what's great about Atomic Habits is it's not just like theory. It's rooted in James Clear's own like life experience, you know?
He starts the book off with this crazy story about this injury that he had in high school.
Right.
Like broken bones, facial fractures.
Wow.
Yeah, he like the works. And it was like a huge wake-up call for him.
Yeah.
And he realized that like even the smallest like improvement, if you do them consistently over time, lead to big changes.
Exactly. And that's like what Atomic Habits are, right? It's the small, seemingly insignificant changes that you make that compound over time, right? So like you might not notice a huge difference day to day.
Yeah.
But over weeks and months and years, those small changes add up to big results.
Okay, so like compound interest.
Exactly. Like compound interest for your habits.
Okay, I'm getting the whole compounding thing. But like what kind of results are we talking here?
Right.
How long until those atomic habits like pay off?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really interesting. Clear talks about this idea of the plateau of latent potential.
Okay.
So think about like learning a language, right?
Yeah.
You can spend weeks feeling like you're getting nowhere. You're like memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules, and then all of a sudden you have a conversation with the native speaker and it just like clicks.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with habits. You put in the work, even though it feels like nothing's happening, and then bam, you break through to a whole new level.
You're in that valley of disappointment.
Exactly.
You start a new diet, a new workout routine.
Yeah.
You're trying to learn a new skill, and it's so easy to just get discouraged when you don't see results right away.
Right.
And Clear says this is actually one of the big reasons why traditional goal setting can backfire.
Yeah, it's true. Goals are important for direction, but fixating solely on goals can actually like backfire and hinder your progress.
Hold on. Goals backfiring. That's a bold statement. I feel like our listeners are all about self-improvement.
Yeah.
And goal setting is like in our DNA. So what's the problem with goals though?
So one thing is like that chasing those goals can actually make us kind of miserable because it's like happiness becomes this destination that we're always striving for instead of something that we can experience like right now.
You're putting so much pressure on yourself to reach that end goal.
Exactly.
Before you can like give yourself permission to be happy.
Exactly. And here's another thing, like goals create this like all or nothing situation.
Okay.
Either you achieve them and you feel like a winner, or you fall short and it's like you're a failure.
Right.
There's not a lot of room for nuance.
Okay.
And then like even if you do hit your goal, then what?
Right. What happens after you check that box on your list?
Yeah, you just set another goal and then you just keep chasing that feeling of accomplishment.
Right. It doesn't feel very sustainable.
Exactly.
So if goals aren't the answer, then like what should we be focusing on?
Yeah. So Clear says we should focus on our identity. It's like a really powerful shift in thinking.
Okay.
Like instead of focusing on losing 20 pounds, you focus on becoming the kind of person who prioritizes healthy eating and exercise.
So it's about like the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
But how does like changing your self-image, like how does that actually lead to lasting habit change?
So it's about the feedback loop between your habits and your identity.
Okay.
So your current habits are a reflection of who you believe you are, right?
Right.
But your identity also shapes your habits.
Okay.
So once you start seeing yourself as a reader or as a runner or as a healthy eater, you're naturally drawn to actions that align with that identity.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
You start believing it and then you start living it.
Yeah, and this is especially relevant, I think, for our listeners who, you know, might be switching careers or taking on new roles at work.
Right.
It's not enough to just like learn new skills. You have to start seeing yourself as someone who embodies those skills, who's already operating at that level.
So instead of trying to like read more, you become a reader.
Exactly. You make it part of who you are.
Okay, this is all making sense, but like how do we actually put this into practice? What's the secret sauce for building better habits?
This is where his 4 laws of behavior change come in.
Okay.
It's this really simple framework that breaks down the habit building process into 4 stages.
Okay. In the book, he lays it out visually, almost like a cycle.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through it?
Yeah. So it starts at the cue.
Okay.
Which is basically like the trigger that kickstarts the whole loop.
Right.
So our brains are wired to pick up on cues in our environment.
Yeah.
Could be internal, could be external.
Yeah.
Could be the smell of coffee in the morning or, you know, the ping of a notification on your phone or just that feeling of stress after a long day.
It's like our brains are always looking for those signals.
Yeah.
To tell us what to do.
Exactly. And each cue triggers a craving. which is the second stage.
Okay.
And this is like the motivational force behind the habit.
Yeah.
It's the desire that makes you act.
Right. Like we don't just go through the motions. There's a reason we do everything.
Exactly. Now, the third stage is the response.
Okay.
So this is the actual habit itself.
Right.
The action that you take.
Yeah.
It could be hitting the snooze button or going for a run or, diving into a new book.
Yeah.
But the key here is that the easier you can make that desired response, the more likely you are to do it.
That makes sense.
No one wants to jump through a million hoops to do something.
Right.
And then finally, the reward.
Yeah.
This is like the satisfaction that comes from completing the habit.
Right.
This is what makes you want to do it again and again.
Right.
And the thing is, the faster the reward comes, the more powerful that reinforcement is.
So if we want good habits to stick,
Mm-hmm.
we need to make them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Yeah.
Like we're setting ourselves up for success here.
Exactly. Let's break down each of these stages a little bit more and see how you can apply them in your own life.
Okay, so we've got these 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
Right.
Well, let's start with obvious. How do we make those good habits like impossible to ignore?
So Clear talks about this thing called implementation intentions.
Okay.
And it sounds way more complicated than it is.
I love a good like brain hack.
Yeah, it is. It's basically just planning ahead.
Okay.
So instead of saying I'm going to meditate more, you say I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every morning right after I pour my coffee.
Right.
You're picking the when and the where.
Yeah.
And it's like setting up those mental dominoes.
Yeah. And it plays into that whole like reduce friction thing.
Exactly.
Like I actually use this to build a writing habit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I have it in my head that like the minute I sit down with my coffee in the morning, I open my laptop and I write 1 paragraph.
Yeah.
And 1 paragraph feels doable.
Right.
Even if I'm not like fully awake.
Right.
And usually I end up writing way more than that.
There you go.
But it's just about like getting started.
Exactly. You just got to make it so easy.
Okay, so we made it obvious. Now, how do we make it attractive?
Okay, so this is where like social influence comes in.
Okay.
Clear talks about the seductive pull of social norms.
Okay.
Which is basically we are wired to copy the people around us.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Especially people that we admire or are in our close circle.
How fast a new slang word catches on.
Exactly. And it's the same with habits. So if all your friends are readers and they prioritize healthy eating and they work out every day, you're going to be way more likely to do those things too.
You find your tribe.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, made it obvious, made it attractive, now make it easy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, even when you know a habit is good for you, it still feels hard.
This goes back to reducing that friction.
Yeah.
So like, imagine you're craving a midnight snack. If there's a bowl of shoot on the counter and it takes 5 minutes to find the cookies in the back of the pantry, you're going to go for the fruit.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. It's not about deprivation. It's about setting yourself up for success.
Right.
So you want to drink more water, keep a water bottle on your desk.
Yes.
You want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand.
Okay.
And the easier you can make it, the more likely you are to do it.
Okay. And last but not least, the fun one, making it satisfying.
Yeah.
Because, like, our brains love a reward.
Oh, they do.
So how do we hack that?
Habit tracking.
Okay.
It's simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah.
Because you get to visually see your progress.
It's like giving yourself a gold star.
Exactly.
Like you're building a streak.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have.
From tiny changes to the 4 laws of behavior change.
Right.
But there's one more thing I want to touch on from Atomic Habits.
Okay.
And that is deliberate practice.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think our listeners aren't just interested in building good habits. They want to, like, reach their full potential.
Right. They want to master their craft.
Yeah.
It's taking it to that next level.
Exactly. So, like, building good habits is the foundation.
Yeah.
But deliberate practice is, like, how you go from good to great.
Think about like elite athletes, right? They don't just show up and go through the motions.
Right.
They're constantly pushing their limits. They're analyzing their performance and looking for ways to get better.
There's that quote I love. It's like, your first 10,000 photographs are your worst.
Right.
Like, you're going to be bad at something before you can be good at it.
You got to embrace the suck.
You have to. And it's about, like, falling in love with the process of getting better.
100%. And that's what deliberate practice is all about. It's about, like, really embracing the challenge and constantly seeking out those opportunities for growth.
So true. And on that note, we are going to wrap up this deep dive on Atomic Habits.
It's been fun.
We've covered so much good stuff today, so I hope you are feeling ready to go out and build some atomic habits into your own life.
Yeah.
And remember, even the smallest changes, when you do them over time, can lead to big results.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.